This week on Chuckload of Comics, we're counting down the top 5 most underrated films of 2017.
Woohoo!
Did your favorites make the list? Stick around and find out. This is Chuckload of Comics. Hey, and welcome to Chuckload of Comics. I'm Chuck Lindsay.
I'm Shauna Lindsay.
This week, we're counting down our top 5 most underrated films of 2017. The year's almost over, and this has been a red letter year for movies.
Right?
I mean, movies like Logan and Spider-Man Homecoming, Stephen King's It.
Yes.
It was a phenomenal year for movies, and so, I mean, obviously some movies are going to kind of slip through the cracks. Some really great movies came out this year that I think, and Shauna thinks, and you out there probably think were really underrated.
Yep.
So we're just going to do 5 movies. We came up with this list. This list is something that, our thoughts and feelings, but we also put you guys to the test and open it up on social media. We got a lot of good responses. A lot of people voted, and so we used all of those to kind of compile our list. So special thanks to everybody that voted.
Yeah, thanks guys.
On social media. A couple people. Mary Wolf from Facebook. She mentioned Logan. She feels that maybe Logan was a bit of an underrated film.
Yeah, I mean, it did really well in the box office, and I think it was critically acclaimed, but to Mary's point, it's probably going to get overlooked at the awards.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was kind of her rationale, is that it's probably going to get overlooked, and, maybe not. Maybe it's going to sweep the Oscars.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool.
Could happen. You never know.
Hugh Jackman, Best Actor.
That's right. Lindsay Beggy, The Accountant and Get Out. 2 good suggestions. Unfortunately, The Accountant was a 2016 movie, so couldn't do it in this particular show. But Get Out, I don't really understand the rationale, because I do understand because it's not as famous. It wasn't a blockbuster.
Right.
But on a $10 million budget, I think it made like $350 million.
Yeah.
So they more than accrued their money, and the critics loved it. So thanks, Lindsay, for that. Little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Recommendation.
Suggestion? Yeah, recommendation. Ryan from Two Guys, One Review. He said Professor Marston, which was the movie about Wonder Woman, the creation. We didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
But man, I bet you're right, because I bet that movie was badass, and critics seem to really like it, but we didn't see it, so it's kind of hard for us to put it on the list. But good suggestion,
right?
Ryan. Aaron Wilson, our good friend Aaron Wilson from Screen Stars. I asked him what were some of his underrated films. He gave me a list of 11 movies. He gave me an 11 movie list that he thought were totally underrated. One of them was Baywatch, which
I never saw that, but hey, maybe.
Maybe you're onto something there,
right?
Aaron. But the one that he did mention that I really think should have made the list, unfortunately didn't make our list, is The Founder. Michael Keaton's McDonald's movie, the movie about Ray Kroc.
No kidding.
That was an awesome movie. And you know what? If this were a top 10,
it'd definitely be
Founder
on
would have been on there 100%. So thank you, Aaron, for that awesome list.
Man.
Sheila, my mother, said American Assassin.
Also a good movie.
Also
and
a Michael
also
Keaton
Michael
movie.
Keaton.
That was a really good movie that really went under the radar.
Yeah.
So American Assassin, definitely an underrated film of 2017. My favorite suggestion came from my good friend, Mr. Jonathan Dela Cruz. This comes as no surprise to me. And again, if this were a top 6 list, this movie would have made the list. And of course, we're talking about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Power Rangers.
Very underrated film. Power Rangers was way better than it should have been. I mean, it was fantastic. Got Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
You got to see the Zords, and I mean, that was a really good movie. If you haven't seen Power Rangers, you really should. Certainly makes a top 6 list of most underrated films of 2017, but unfortunately, we're only doing top 5.
Yeah, we had one that just kind of knocked it out of there, so sorry.
We did. Yeah, it was a toss-up between Power Rangers and one of the movies that did make our list. So thanks, guys. Thanks for your input.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it. That was fantastic. So, on to our list. Top 5
Drum roll,
most
please.
underrated films of 2017. Number 5.
Dun, dun, dun.
T2, Trainspotting.
Yes, people, he said Trainspotting. There was a second Trainspotting movie made, if you didn't know this already.
That's right. After 20 years abroad, Mark Renton returns to Scotland and reunites with his old friends, Sick Boy, Spud, and Begbie. This movie really took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to like it. It was one of those sequels that nobody really was asking for.
Right.
I mean, it's one of those movies that you thought would never really get made, but it did, and I really enjoyed it. We went and saw it at the Bruin View in Chicago.
where we
Perfect
saw
brew and view movie. Great.
most of these movies.
Yeah. These are a lot of second-run movies that we saw. Danny Boyle, the director of the original Trainspotting, came back. He wrote it and directed it. And he was also the director of the movie 127 Hours, which was a fantastic movie, not an underrated film at all. So it stars obviously Ewan McGregor. All the original cast from the original Trainspotting came back. They're all older now. They're not addicted to smack anymore like they were on Trainspotting. They're getting their lives back together. But Begbie, who you remember, the crazy fighting guy from the first Trainspotting, it's him getting out of prison. And he comes back and he's got a score to settle with the guys from Trainspotting that sent him to jail.
It's so good, so entertaining.
I loved it.
Well worth your money.
Trainspotting 2, very underrated film from 2017. Number 4, The Dark Tower. All you Dark Tower haters out there.
I had to fight to get this one on the list, and this is what knocked Power Rangers off. Sorry, it was because of me.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes score for Dark Tower got a 16 by critics and 48 by Rotten Tomato viewers.
So true.
Or voters. I liked it, man.
I did too.
Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey.
They knocked it out of the park.
I thought it was great. There was so many nods to Stephen King movies.
Yeah.
The whole. I thought they did a really good job of just kind of doing the story of Roland Deschain.
Yep.
Doing his thing, fighting the man in black.
I think personally the reason why people hated it so much is because it wasn't the books. It wasn't the story you read. It was just the characters that you love, and it was this new story about those characters, which we went in there kind of assuming that that's what it was going to be. But I think a lot of people went in there thinking it was going to be what it wasn't, and therefore they hated it.
That's exactly right. People like C.J. Riley out there.
That's right.
They didn't make the movie of the books. They didn't put the books on the big screen, and I think that's what pissed a lot of people off. A lot of Dark Tower fans who live and breathe the Dark Tower saw this movie as a completely just travesty for the gospel of the Dark Tower. But, if you just walk in there and just see it as a standalone movie with just nods to these Dark Tower characters, I think you really dig it. We really enjoyed it anyway.
Yep.
Number 3, The Kingsmen 2, Golden Circle.
Holy cow.
With their headquarters destroyed and the world held hostage, the Kingsmen travel to the U.S. and discover an allied spy agency called the Statesmen. Rotten Tomatoes score, 51% by critics and 68% by regular Rotten Tomatoes people.
Yeah, it's not terrible in the world of Rotten Tomatoes,
yes.
But this movie really took me by surprise, too. Like, I went in there hearing the ratings, expecting not to enjoy it, and it was long, but it went by so quick because it was just entertaining, it was funny, the acting was amazing. You didn't have to watch the first one to pick up where this one started, and it was just such a great movie.
And an all-star cast in this movie.
Kidding.
Colin Firth, Channing Tatum, Julianne Moore, Halle Berry, Jeff Bridges, and Sir Elton John.
Right?
Round out one of the biggest and best casts of any movie to come out this year. And again, the first Kingsman was a fantastic surprise hit. Wonderful movie. And this one, I think, held its own.
I liked it better than the first one.
Yeah,
personally.
It was funnier. It was a lot more kind of slapsticky and sillier. It doesn't take itself too seriously at all.
Cool action sequences. I mean, Julianne Moore killed it.
Julianne Moore was hilarious. Jeff Bridges didn't have much of a role, but when he was on the screen, it was great. Colin Firth was always great. Halle Berry had a nice, very heartfelt kind of role. Channing Tatum stole the show, as he always does. The dude's an amazing actor. He's a funny actor. He plays like this cowboy. Because they go to the U.S. and they find a, like the Kingsman equivalent, because they're a British spy agency, and they go to the U.S. and find a U.S. spy agency, and they team up to take the world back from the drug lord that is Julianne Moore. Elton John steals every single scene that he's in.
Fantastic.
I don't want to spoil Elton John.
Himself.
And it's not a small role, Elton John. Elton John's in half the movie, and he's fantastic. So definitely go see The Kingsman 2 Golden Circle.
Yep.
Now, this was a toss-up. We're already up to number 2. And number 2 and number 1, we had to flip a coin. Because these were two movies. One of them was my favorite movie of the year. The other one just took me absolutely by surprise. So we decided to make number 2 Blade Runner 2049.
That's right.
If you haven't seen it, a young Blade Runner's discovery of a long-buried secret leads him to track down former Blade Runner Rick Deckard, who is played by Harrison Ford, the original Blade Runner from the cult classic Blade Runner film. Rotten Tomatoes score, 87 by critics and 81.
That's pretty darn good score, people.
That means people loved it. So why does it
Yeah.
make the underrated list? People just didn't go see it. It only made $30 million opening weekend, which is a travesty. It had like a massive budget. I think it was a $300 million budget, and it only made $35 million its opening weekend. Huge loss for the
Yeah.
studio. It eventually, I think, worldwide box office, it did make its budget back. I think it didn't crack $1 billion at all, but I think it made in the neighborhood of like 600 million. So it made its budget back in the worldwide market. But Denis Villeneuve, director of Arrival and the movie Prisoners. Remember Prisoners?
yeah.
With Hugh Jackman.
That movie was great.
Fantastic movie, Prisoners. But Blade Runner, probably is my number one favorite movie of the year.
Wow.
I loved Blade Runner so much. Everything about it. The cinematography was amazing.
It really was.
The story was incredible. The acting, Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Jared Leto,
Yeah.
Robin Wright, and Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
Everybody in this movie brought their A game.
Yep.
I mean, the acting is amazing. The cinematography is incredible. The set
Yeah.
design, the costume design, everything about it was just absolutely nuts.
And props to the cinematography because it felt like you were still in the exact same universe as you were in
the original Blade Runner.
one.
It's like, man, it exists
really
in
cool.
that exact same world,
Yep.
and it feels that way. It doesn't
Yep.
feel like a whole new take on Blade Runner. It just
Yeah.
felt like this is Blade Runner 30 years later.
Yep.
And it was amazing. If you haven't seen Blade Runner, you gotta rent it. Go to your Redbox. I think it's out of theaters by now, but go see it. It's long, and I think that's what scared a lot of people away. It was a 3-hour movie. It's a long flick, a long, drawn-out sci-fi flick, but man, you just spend 3 hours just absorbing
Yeah.
this universe created by Denis Villeneuve. Guy crushed it. Absolutely fantastic. My pick of the year, not to spoil our next countdown that we're going to do. We're going to do our top 10 favorite movies of the year. But Blade Runner, 2049, go see it. Super underrated film.
Yep.
So number one, Shauna, the number one most underrated. This movie got a 29 from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 69 from viewers. So that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
This movie
This movie blew my
was
socks
such
off.
a big surprise. We went into this movie. I haven't told you what it is yet. We went into this movie expecting it to be horrible because everybody
suck.
said it wasn't any good. 29 from Rotten Tomatoes critics. King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword.
Yeah, Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie crushed King
oh my
Arthur.
Gosh, this is possibly one of my favorite movies of the year, and I had to kind of fight to get it in the first spot here over Blade Runner.
You're right though.
But the script is unbelievable, and it's just got Guy Ritchie all over it. You know, you got your quick cut sequences, and it's just such a fun, great movie. The acting's amazing.
Charlie Hunnam from
Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
It was amazing. Jude Law
Yeah.
was just incredible as he's your villain in the movie.
Yeah.
So what it's about, Arthur is robbed of his birthright. He comes up the hard way in the back alleys of this city, this medieval town. But once he pulls the sword from the stone, he is forced to acknowledge his true legacy and become King Arthur.
Dun, dun, dun.
The movie's got magic. It's got monsters.
Yeah.
It's got craziness, man. It's such a fantastic movie. It's got an amazing soundtrack.
Yep.
Again, the cinematography of it just blew me away. I could not believe it only got a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm still shocked. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, Guy Ritchie was pretty distraught over the reviews.
He
and
was
the
ready to
critics.
quit
He was-
filmmaking
Yeah,
after the
completely.
reviews came back.
Because he thought he made this amazing film, which I completely agree with him. It is an amazing film, and people hated it. So I don't know where they were coming from. I don't know what they were expecting, because it's a Guy Ritchie movie all day.
Yep.
It's got a little comedic aspect to it. I mean, it was so good.
It was fantastic. I mean, it was right up there with Lord of the Rings, Fellowship, and it just had that whole kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
The special effects were not crap. The special effects were fantastic.
yeah.
The story was great. The acting was great. Like Shauna said, the directing, the editing, that
Fantastic.
Guy Ritchie editing was just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that's our list, people.
Yeah.
So go see some movies.
right.
This year, like we said before, it was a red letter year. It was a blockbuster year for movies. Some of the best movies to come out in a decade came out in 2017. So a lot of these ones just kind of went under the radar.
Yep. Leave us some comments. Tell us what we missed.
Let us know what you think about our list of 5 most underrated films.
Yeah.
And thanks again to everybody on social media for voting and giving us your recommendations. And that's about all we got. For more weekly Chuckload of Comics fun, be sure to click that subscribe button down there and visit us at youtube.com/Chuckload of Comics and look for our daily nerd news segments. We're doing those every single day, it seems like now. We're dropping nerd news on YouTube constantly, so click the subscribe button. Stay up to date with all this super fun nerd news and fun comic book YouTube shows. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you here next week.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. We got a lot of other good shows on the YouTube channel, so check them out. We got like that one and that one. Lots of good stuff. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button for more episodes every single week. See you later.